Hello everyone, this is my first video in the series for Microsoft Project 2010. Microsoft Project is used to keep track of your projects and tasks, and you can allocate to people, you can keep track of your cost. So for people who are into project management, this is one of the main programs that they use. So if you wanted to know more about it, I'm hoping that in 4 videos around 20-30 minutes long, I'll be able to give you a really good view and maybe all the important elements that you need to know. And if you had to do a job, you'll be able to tell that you know Microsoft Project. Now, I was able to download a trial version of Microsoft Project from Microsoft's website. Unfortunately, I was trying to do it today and I could not find the 2010. Even when I tried to Google search for it, it takes me to 2013 even if I click on it. But I found that CNET.com has that, so you can see if that works. I'll see if I can find it another way. If not, you can get 2013 too. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen it looks very much the same in terms of the look. It is very different from 2007 to 2010. I'm going to make a separate video for that, but for 2010, if you can get the trial, that's great. If not, just by watching it you'll get a pretty good idea. So the whole idea in the Microsoft project is you have a goal in mind that you want to get something done, and you're going to create tasks. You're going to allocate tasks to some resources. Resources are like anybody is a resource, like a programmer, or if I'm doing a construction work, a plumber, and a electrician, all of that is the resource, and then you can track all of them. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a project in which I want to change the tiles in my house, and I want to paint it, and I also want to put some new closet in my room, so I can have new closet for my hanging my clothes in 2 different rooms. So I want to order something from, say, like an IKEA furniture store, and then install it either myself or get somebody else to do it for me. So I've started Microsoft Project. The first thing will save it, so I can hit the save button here or from here, and I'll call it house reno, and you can click here and you can save it as the previous formats if you wanted to, and I can hit save. Now before you start the project, let's fill in some information about the project. So I can go to file, and in here there's an option called project information. So I'm going to click it, advanced properties, and I can put up here tiles and closet renovation, subject if I wanted, author, manager, company name. So you can start filling things up here, which will show up on your reports and things like that. So I can click OK, and I can come back to task. I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with Microsoft Word and Excel, so the same idea applies here with task and resources and projects, which are the tabs, and within the tabs there are ribbons. The next thing I want to do is I want to set my working time, because by default Microsoft Project works from Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day. But if you were not going to be working Monday to Friday, maybe you work only 4 days, 10 hours a day. So you can make those changes if you wanted to. For that you have to go to project, and then you can go to change working time. Before I do that, under project I'm going to go to project information here. This is where I can put my start date. So I'll say, you know what, my start date will be April 1st. Okay, that's the current date. And the priority is for each jobs, like how important the jobs are, which we'll come to once we come to that part. I'll click OK. And under project, I go to change working time. And the first thing on the bottom is exceptions. So I can put an exception, say for example, for July 4th, which is in the US, it's a holiday. So I can click on start, and I can say, July 4th, if there is a project going on at that time, don't put any job on that day. That's a non-working day. It's already put that. I'm putting it as an exception. And you can put like a week or whatever start to finish date you want it in there. Okay. I can click on details, And here I can say, for example, if this exception was that on July 4th, we're going to work, or if it was like a Sunday, I can choose a Sunday and I say it's going to be a working time that Sunday, particular day. So you can set that. And you can reoccur, like say, for example, you were going to have like the first Monday of the month or the first of any date every month would be like a meeting time, so it's not being no work is happening that day. So you can set a reoccurrence and you can choose how many times to reoccur, and I can always delete it back. And next to exceptions there is an option called work week, which is default, and I can go to details, and here I can start changing the days. So if I want, I can click on Monday and I can set it to non-working time. Right now you see it's kind of there. I'm thinking if I click on set, oops, it says 8 to 12 in the morning, and then 1 hour break, and then 1 to 5. That's the working time, 8 to 5 with a 1 hour break. So any day you wanted, you could add it. I can click on Saturday. I can say set as specific days for working time, and I can set say 4 hours, 8 a.m. to 12 or whatever I want it. So I can change the default times, which are part of the standard calendar. We'll talk about that maybe in next third or fourth video about creating your own calendars. For now, this is good. So this is all about adding project information and also changing your work time. I want to show you one more thing. If you see, I've got this tab here called My Tab with some buttons in it. So you can customize and have your own tabs in Office 2010, which is also available for Word and Excel, where you can create a tab and put all your important buttons there. So if you want, you can go to File, Options, and you go to Customize Ribbon, and then you can click on New Tab. You can click on it, rename it, and then the new group too you can rename, and then you can just drag and drop the buttons in there. If you want to see all the buttons, you just click here and choose all, and then you can drag any buttons you want up here, and you can remove the check mark if you don't want it to show, and you can put a check mark here for the developer tab, which has the macro buttons in there, which we'll talk about later on. And I can always reset it, so I can say reset all customizations. I'll say yes to it. You can even export it and import it. If you export it, you can then take it to another computer and add these tabs to it. So that's that. And there was one more thing up there I just wanted to make sure. File, Options. Under there's an option called Save. You want to make sure that auto recovery is set for 10 minutes and it prompts you to save, so that project will remind you to force you to save your work every 10 minutes. So that's a good reminder. Okay. So let's start adding some tasks. So the whole idea of a project is you need to have a goal in mind. What is it that you want to get done? Now you need to start scoping it. So it's like the idea of the scope is that you need to create your plan. What can be done? What cannot be done? What is the cost? How long it might take, and all that kind of stuff. And then that is part of the project management class. I'm not going to get into that part. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to click on the task name, and I'm going to make up a task. So say for example, I want to say move things to garage. So I need to move the things out of the way so that I can start doing the job, because no one's in the house take care of it. So I click tab to go to the next one, and the duration is, I can say 0.5 D, which stands for day. I can hit tab. Okay. Or I can say 1 day. I can put 1 hour, 1H. I can type 1 MO for 1 month. I can put 1 minute. So I don't think so seconds is available, but the month and things like that. So say I'll need 0.5 day for this, half a day, to move the stuff out of the house so that it's empty. And if you look in the task mode, it has a question mark, which is it is manually scheduled. So I'm going to change it to auto. As soon as I do that, you see it puts the start date of April 1st, because that's the information I put under project information. So that's why that date information shows up. Come back to tasks. Now say after this I want to say measure the floor. So I want to order the tiles, right? So I need to measure the floors, and I'll need maybe 3 hours. Okay, and I can click here on the top, look for the fill handle, and pull it down. Remember, this fill handle is used in Excel. Or I can just click on this task and I can say auto. And when I say auto, it again starts on April 1st. Okay, and I can then click here and I can say order tiles, and I'll say, you know what, this might take up 1 day because I might have to go look around. So I can say 1 day. And this job too, I'll make it auto. Now you see all the jobs are starting on the 1st. That's okay. We'll fix the problem with a few clicks. And I'm just going to type up some more jobs. So I've just added some tasks in here, like ordering the closet, removing the old tiles, leveling the floors, installing new, painting the walls, cleaning up, and assemble the closet from IKEA for room 1 and room 2. Now I can just click here and I can look for the fill handle and I can pull it down. So you see all of these have automatically started on the 1st. And say I need to change something, painting, installing the tiles, you know what, I'll give it 3 days. Painting walls, I'll give 2 days. Clean up, 0.5 day. Assembling, 1 day, good enough. 1 day for the other one. Clean up, 0.5 hours. Okay. Leveling floor, 1 day is good. And remove old tiles. The way you see the question mark, that means it's thinking it's an estimated day. So if I double click on it, you'll see there is an estimated option, which I don't want to do. And because I want it to be, I know it's going to be 1 day, not an estimated. So 1 day. To put an estimated day, you put 1 ED. Okay. Or you can put a check mark there. I think I have to put a question mark still. Yeah. And I can just put 1 day back. Okay. So this is the way you can add. So you can pause the video if you are practicing with me and you can enter this information in there. Now that you've added, our problem is all these jobs are starting on the 1st. So, but they will not be starting all together. We have to wait for the orders to come, for the tiles to be removed. So I'm just going to move this guy a little bit on the side. This is called a Gantt chart. So you see on the side, and there's a Gantt chart tools on the top, which we'll be talking about. And there's like, it shows me the March, which is the 31st, and this is the 1st. It always starts on a Monday and then goes on. So I'm just going to highlight all of these jobs, go to the corner, highlight, and I'm going to link them. As soon as I link them, you see how it changed. Now the job's ending somewhere in April 15th or things like that, because it's saying finish the previous job and then you can start the new job. So they use the word predecessor, which is the previous job, and successor is the one afterwards. So that's the wording they use. So there is this predecessor option. It automatically put that 1, 2, 3, 4, which is this number 2 job cannot start till the time the first job is over. So you see, if I change this from 0.5 to 1 day, the start date of the second job will change. It moved to the 2nd of April. Okay. If I move it back to 0.5 hours, it will move back to 1st because there are 8 hours in the day. So you can do this. The measuring can be done on the same day. You don't have to do it on the next day. So that's the way this works. Now, this predecessors, you can have like multiple. You can even enter the number yourself. Here are the task numbers. So say, for example, installing new tiles. I can click on the predecessor where it says 6. I can press F2 on the keyboard to edit. And I can put a comma. And I'll say, you know what, along with this installing new tiles, I need to make sure that the task number 4, not 4, sorry, the remove tiles is number 5, is also done. Okay. And now you can see that up here, I'm just going to increase the zoom. Maybe reduce a little. And you'll see there are two lines now going to that job. So because I've said that this guy is another predecessor, so I need to make sure this job is done before this can start. So, and you can also double click on any of these tasks, and you can go to the predecessor option, and then there it is added there, which one it is. And if I want it, I can click on it, press F2, and I can remove it. So you can manually add the task as you wanted it. Now, if you wanted to insert, you made a mistake somewhere, you wanted to add something somewhere, you could just click on any of the tasks and you can hit the insert button on the keyboard, or you can click on task and you can click on the word task. And right in that section you see an option called recurring task. That is, if you wanted to add a task which is repeated. So say for example, like every Monday you wanted to repeat a task, so you could set it for every Monday once a week, and then how many times you want it to recur. So so I can say that every Monday for the next 3 times test task, and then it will be weekly. I can click OK, and it will add a test task, and there's a plus sign next to it, so all of them are listed underneath it with a thing of 1 day because I didn't change anything in there. Okay. But you can set the proper values in there if it's like an hour or something like that, and I'll just hit undo for now. Or I can hit the delete button on the keyboard to remove it. I might as well just highlight it here and hit delete, and it's saying delete all of them. I'll say click OK, so all of them are removed. I'll reduce the zoom here, and you can control this from even going to the view, and then you can choose whether you want to see weeks or you want to see it by hours and things like that. So you can change it to whatever view you want it to be. Come back to task. Now if I wanted, I could put like milestones. Milestones are like not actual work, but say after I finished this ordering, just before I remove the tiles, I wanted to make sure that my initial plan is going according to plan. So I can put a milestone there. So the way to do that, I could just add a task, and I'll type in there check initial plan, and I have to put 0 days. 0 days sets the milestone automatically. I can make it auto, and I can highlight 4 and 5 and link them so that you see that milestone shows up here rather than being at the front. And the other way to add a milestone will be using this button here. Okay. And the other thing I can do is I can summarize my tasks together. Instead of having like, once you start doing a complicated project, you're gonna have like bunch of tasks. Like you don't want like hundreds of tasks all showing up. So you can group them and organize them in a logical way. So I can click here and I can insert a task, and I can call this task planning phase. Okay. And I'm going to make it auto. I can highlight up to here, and I can indent it. Now when I indent it, you see that minus sign comes up, so that's a summary. I'll do the same thing here. I'll insert a task, and you see this task is thinking that it needs to be indented, so I'll just push it back out, outdent it, and I'll say this is tiles phase. Okay, make it auto. I'll highlight up to here, and I can indent. So now I have, say yes to saving. Now I have 2 summaries, and I'll click here and I'll insert, or just hit insert on the keyboard, and I'll say this is IKEA phase. Make it auto. I can highlight 2 of them and indent it. So there it is. And I can even add one more job here, say bring stuff back from garage. And I'll say this will be 1 day too. And I'll make it auto. So it's a pretty good way. By adding the summary, you can organize things pretty well. I can even go to format and I can say project summary task. So it adds this thing on the top. You see it says tiles and closet renovation. It got that name from the earlier step when I went to file project information. It says 12 days, starts on the Monday 1st, goes up to the 16th. And it does not put any work on Saturdays and Sundays because there is no work happening there. Okay. So we talked about adding tasks. You can always double click on any of the tasks and you can start working with it. Okay. Now one of the things to understand in this task is that you see all the tasks are starting after the previous task is ending. So this is called start to finish. It means start applies to the first task and the finish applies to the second task. So let me show you something that I have here, and I'll just this. So by default, it is finish to start, not start to finish. If I said that, finish to start, that means this is the most common. The predecessor, which is the task 1, should finish before the second task can start. And then there is a start to start dependency. This is called a task dependency. How will the second task start? Like, what are the parameters to do that? So there is a start to start. So it means that the second job doesn't have to wait before starting the job. It doesn't have to wait for the first task to finish. So say for example, I have 2 assembly for the IKEA closet. So I don't have to wait for the first assembly to finish to start the second assembly. I can start it as soon as I start on the first one if I wanted to. So I can do that. There is an option called finish to finish. That is, the successor task cannot finish. So that is, the task 2 cannot finish till the time the first task has finished. Okay. And the last one is start to finish, which is successor task cannot finish until predecessor task starts. So it's like the second task cannot finish until unless the first task before that has started, or whatever it's connected to. It doesn't have to be the one before it. It could have a dependency to a task way ahead of it. So these are different types of tasks. Let me show you where you can go to make changes to this. So say for example this one. Assembly closet room 1. I can extend it a little. This is connected, or the predecessor is the number 12, which is cleanup. So I can double click on it and say I wanted to change it to, say, start to start. Let me come back here. Okay, let's do like a start to start. So I'll click OK. Okay, and you see, I just want to show you here. You see how this arrow, because it's no longer the way it's ending. You see, it's not dependent on waiting it to end. It will just start. So I can do the same thing with this closet room 1. I can make it start to start if I wanted to. So I'm just trying to give you the example of how this can work, because the cleanup can start and right away I can start the job. So I don't have to wait for the jobs to happen. And I can just highlight these two. Once the cleanup's done, I can link it so that this job doesn't sit here. Okay. So these are the different types of tasks that you can apply to different ones. The finish to start is the most common one out there. And I'm just going to come to this paint one. I'm going to double click on it. And in the predecessor, there is an option called lag time. So they have 2 words, lag or lead. So say for example, it's like the painting will be done in 2 days, but I want to make sure that I give it 2 days for it to dry up. So I could just put 2D. If I put minus 2D means negative value, like you don't have to wait. So if I put 2 days, let's see, when is the next task starting? The next start is starting on the 12th. So let's see what happens, which is the cleanup. You see the cleanup got moved to 16th because the 12th, 13, 14 is going to add 2 extra days, so it will not start the job. So and it says up here plus 2 days, finish to start. So that's the, and you can also put a negative value in there if you, for some reason you thought that the other job can start before 2 days or minus 2 days or few hours or something like that, that they can start cleaning things up. So this is called the lag time. And along with the lag time, there is one more concept I want to talk about before I end this first video, which is called dependency. And I'm just going to double click on it to show you. So I'm going to double click on it. Under advanced, there is this option called task type, which are called task dependencies. So I'm just going to bring up the task types, not the dependency, task types. The first thing is called fixed unit task. By default, all jobs are assigned as a fixed unit, which refers as a percentage. So, for example, a resource, which is like a plumber or an electrician or a painter, is assigned to a task 100%. If I say that this particular painter is only assigned 50%, that means it's only available half of the time that he is allocated. Then there is the fixed duration task, which is a task that takes specified amount of time, even if you have more than one person working on it. So, a particular task, no matter how many people are at it, is going to take the same duration, the same amount of time. It doesn't matter how many people are there. And then another type of task are fixed work task, which is if one person takes 4 days to do a job, and if you assign 2 people to that job, it will be done in 2 days. So it's like if I was doing the paint job and I thought 2 people will take 4 days, and if I add 4 people to it, now it will get done in 2 days. So, and then there is an option to choose whether some tasks are effort driven, which is any of these first 2 tasks can be set. By default, all fixed work tasks are effort driven. So if you choose the fixed work task, it is automatically set as an effort driven. The first 2 are not. You can choose that option. So let me just come back to project. And there's the effort driven if I wanted to apply to this fixed unit one. So that when I start adding extra people to this job, the time will be reduced as I'm adding it. Or you can choose any one of these. And we'll look at this in a little bit more detail in the second video when we talk about resources, how to allocate resources. So in this video we talked about starting project, adding tasks, adding summaries, milestones which are added with 0 days, or you can double click on it. Under advanced you can set it as a milestone. And we also talked about adding project information, changing work times, talked about recurring tasks and summary tasks. We also can add notes where you can double click on any jobs, go to the notes section, and you can add a note. Click OK. And say for example I measured the floor and I had some kind of a floor plan, so I can insert a object. Before I insert, it's better to put some words there like file attached, and then you can insert a file of some kind. You can create from file, you can browse, and when you browse you can just put a link to it, rather than if you don't put a link, the file will be attached to your project and your project file will start to get big. So if you don't want to do that, you can put a link to it, so when somebody clicks on it they will be able to see it. Now if you were emailing this project to somebody, then you want to remove the link because you want to send the file with it, otherwise they will not get the file. Okay, so I can just click now this and I'll just create a bitmap image. Okay, and since something's added there, I'll click OK, and you see I've got that symbol there. When I point to it, it says this is my note, and there it says file attached. If I hadn't added that word, I wouldn't know what it is. Why is there a note there? So I can say leave a note out there for somebody to look at. Thank you for watching. Hopefully the second video will be out soon. Hello everyone, this is my first video in the series for Microsoft Project 2010. Microsoft Project is used to keep track of your projects and tasks, and you can allocate to people. You can keep track of your cost. So for people who are into project management, this is one of the main programs that they use. So if you wanted to know more about it, I'm hoping that in 4 videos around 20-30 minutes long, I'll be able to give you a really good view and maybe all the important elements that you need to know. And if you had to do a job, you'll be able to tell that you know Microsoft Project. Now, I was able to download a trial version of Microsoft Project from Microsoft's website. Unfortunately, I was trying to do it today and I could not find the 2010. Even when I tried to Google search for it, my working time, because by default, Microsoft Project works from Monday to Friday, 8 hours a day. But if you were not going to be working Monday to Friday, maybe you work only 4 days, 10 hours a day. So you can make those changes if you wanted to. For that, you have to go to Project, and then you can go to Change Working Time. Before I do that, under Project, I'm going to go to Project Information here. This is where I can put my start date. So I'll say, you know what, my start date will be April 1st. Okay, that's the current date. And the priority is for each jobs, like how important the jobs are, which we'll come to once we come to that part. I'll click OK, and under Project I go to Change Working Time, and the first thing on the bottom is exceptions. So I can, before you start the project, let's fill in some information about the project. So I can go to File, and in here there's an option called Project Information. So I'm going to click it, Advanced Properties, and I can put up here tiles and closet, renovation, subject if I wanted, author, manager, company name. So you can start filling things up here, which will show up on your reports and things like that. So I can click OK, and I can come back to task. I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with Microsoft Word and Excel, so the same idea applies here with task and resources and projects, which are the tabs, and within the tabs there are ribbons. Okay. The next thing I want to do is I want to set my, it takes me to 2013 even if I click on it, but I found that CNET.com has that, so you can see if that works. I'll see if I can find it another way. If not, you can get 2013 too. I'm pretty sure from what I've seen it looks very much the same in terms of the look. It is very different from 2007 to 2010. I'm going to make a separate video for that, but for 2010, if you can get the trial, that's great. If not, just by watching it you'll get a pretty good idea. So the whole idea in the Microsoft project is you have a goal in mind that you want to get something done, and you're going to create tasks. You're going to allocate tasks to some resources. Resources are like anybody is a resource, like a programmer, or if I'm doing a construction work, a plumber, and a electrician, all of that is the resource, and then you can track all of them. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a project in which I want to change the tiles in my house, and I want to paint it, and I also want to put some new closet in my room, so I can have new closet for my hanging my clothes in 2 different rooms. So I want to order something from, say, like an IKEA furniture store, and then install it either myself or get somebody else to do it for me. So I've started Microsoft project. The first thing will save it, so I can hit the save button here or from here, and I'll call it house reno, and you can click here and you can save it as the previous formats if you wanted to, and I can hit save. Now before